Welcome to the Explainer. Step right into the virtual lab with us. If you've ever looked at a workbench totally loaded with fragile glassware and high-tech microscopes and wondered, how on earth do I use all of this without causing a minor disaster? Well, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're acting as your ultimate lab equipment guide. We're mastering the fundamental tools of science and, more importantly, exactly how to handle them safely. Here's our agenda for today's lab induction. We'll be taking this chronologically, starting with suiting up, moving on to essential apparatus, breaking down microscope anatomy, then microscope operation, and finally ending with a pretty fiery demonstration on powder hazards. Section 1. Suiting up. Personal protective equipment basics. Before we even think about touching a piece of equipment, we absolutely must lay down the foundational rules of personal protection. Listen, this gear, it is entirely non-negotiable. Your safety goggles aren't just for looking the part of a mad scientist. They're your primary literal barrier against sudden splashes, shattered glass, and volatile vapors. Latex or nitrile gloves are there to protect your hands against corrosives you might not even realize are sitting right there on the bench. And that lab coat, it's basically designed to take the hit from chemical spills so your favorite shirt, and obviously your skin, don't have to. Section 2. Essential apparatus, the tools of the trade. Okay, let's dive into this. Now that we're properly suited up, let's get acquainted with the precision equipment sitting on the workbench. Precision measurement tools require incredibly strict handling rules to prevent contamination and ensure accuracy. Take the electronic balance, for example. You always want to zero or tare it first, and never place raw chemicals directly on the pan. Use a weigh boat. For the graduated cylinder, getting a precise liquid volume is all about perspective. You literally have to get down to eye level to read the liquid volume at the very bottom of the curve, the meniscus. And the golden rule for the volumetric pipette? Never, ever pipette by mouth. Seriously, don't do it. Always use a rubber bulb or a mechanical aid. So let's test your lab intuition for a second. Which piece of lab equipment is specifically designed for swishing or mixing liquids without spilling? Think about how equipment design solves real-world lab problems. Because, let's be real, if you need to vigorously mix a chemical solution, an open beaker is just asking for a splash. If you guessed the Erlenmeyer or conical flask, you hit the nail on the head. Its unique geometry is the secret here. The wide base gives it fantastic stability, but that narrow neck? It acts as a physical safeguard. It actually pushes the liquid back down into the flask while you're vigorously mixing or doing a titration, rather than letting it splash up onto your gloves. It's just a perfect example of form meeting function in the lab. Now, handling heat requires just as much precision, and honestly, knowing the difference between these tools can literally prevent shattered glass and completely ruined experiments. A Bunsen burner provides an open gas flame, which obviously means you have to keep flammables far, far away. A crucible, on the other hand, is meant for extreme solid heating. It gets unbelievably hot, requiring you to use crucible tongs and cool it down gradually to prevent thermal shock. If you don't, it will literally shatter. And then you've got your wire gauze, which acts as this essential support platform on your ring stand, perfect for resting your beakers on while they heat up safely. Section 3. Microscope anatomy. Looking closer. Let's see how all these handling principles apply to our high-precision optics, which is where biology truly opens up to us. But before we even touch the compound light microscope, we have to differentiate two fundamental optical principles. Magnification scales the image size up, sure. But here's the thing, a larger image is completely useless without resolution. Resolution, or resolving power, is the capacity to distinguish two distinct, closely adjacent points as crisp, separate entities. Think of it like zooming way in on a low-resolution digital photo on your phone. You just get a blurry, pixelated mess, right? You absolutely need both magnification and resolution for effective microscopy. The microscope itself is this beautiful synergy of three distinct systems working perfectly together. First, the magnifying parts, the ocular and objective lenses, they do all the heavy lifting of optical enlargement. Then you have the mechanical parts, the sturdy arm, the base, the stage, and the adjustment knobs. These give you structural rigidity and micro-precise physical control. And finally, the illuminating parts, like the LED, mirror, and iris diaphragm, collect and perfectly regulate the light, piercing your specimen. Now you might be wondering, how do we calculate total magnification? Well, it's actually super easy. If you're looking through a 15x ocular eyepiece, and you have a 45x high-power objective lens clicked into place, you simply multiply them. Boom. You're observing your specimen at a massive 675 times its actual size.
Section 4. Microscope operation, step-by-step focus.
Knowing the parts is one thing, right? But operating the microscope safely without causing a disaster on the bench is a totally separate, absolutely crucial skill. So here is your critical 5-step process. Step 1, always transport it with 2 hands. Step 2, adjust your light for an evenly lit field. Step 3, secure your slide flat on the stage. Now pay super close attention to steps 4 and 5 because this is where most mistakes happen. You always start your focus with the low power objective using the large coarse adjustment knob. Once it's focused, you switch to high power, but from then on, you use only the small, fine adjustment knob.
Okay, pause. We need to talk about a critical safety rule here. You must never forget this. When you're using the coarse adjustment knob to bring the lens down, you cannot be looking through the eyepiece. No way. You must physically step back and observe the instrument from the side. You literally have to watch the physical gap between the lens and the glass to ensure you don't crush the cover slip.
Let's reinforce that with a really high-stakes question. Why should you never, ever use the coarse adjustment knob when you are using the high-power objective, or HPO? What exactly is the mechanical limit we're hitting here? The stark reality is this. High-power objective lenses have incredibly short working distances. We're talking hovering mere millimeters above the glass. Because the coarse knob moves the mechanical stage drastically and quickly, using it under high power will literally drive the lens straight into the slide. You will absolutely shatter the glass cover slip, completely ruin the specimen, and deeply scratch a highly expensive optical lens. So remember the microscope safety rule. Always use the fine knob for high power. Section 5. Powder hazards, hydrophobicity, and flammability. For our grand finale, we're shifting gears from precision optics to advanced chemical properties, and we're looking at club moss spores, also known as Lycopodium. What makes these spores so fascinating is the hydrophobic effect. They intensely repel water. They form this dry, non-wetting protective barrier that is so incredibly dense that water's surface tension simply cannot break through it. It's actually wild. If you were to coat your finger in these spores and dunk it straight into a beaker of water, your finger would emerge 100% perfectly dry. It's just a brilliant, brilliant display of physical chemistry. But there is a hidden, serious danger to fine organic powders like this. Contrast these 2 scenarios. If you apply a flame to a bulk pile of this organic material, it burns slowly and pretty predictably. But if you were to disperse that exact same powder into a cloud in the air, you drastically change its physical profile. You create an enormously high surface area to volume ratio, which instantly turns a relatively safe pile into a massive rapid flash fire hazard. Which leads us to a really crucial question about the mechanics of combustion and safety. What exactly causes fine combustible powders, like our club moss spores, to ignite so violently when they're sprayed over a simple Bunsen burner? The answer? Oxygen. Dispersing the powder dramatically increases the surface area that is directly exposed to oxygen. So, surrounded by fuel and hitting a heat source, practically every single particle burns simultaneously, creating a violent flash fire. That is exactly why keeping fine powders away from open flames is the ultimate safety precaution. Whether you're protecting delicate microscopic lenses or managing combustible dust, always respect the tools and the hazards of the lab. But it does leave you wondering, doesn't it? If a simple moss spore can do this, what invisible, everyday materials in your own home are hiding the exact same explosive potential? Thanks for joining this explainer. Stay safe and keep questioning the science around you.